So I wasn't gonna talk about this one, to be completely honest, but it started kind of getting the rounds through some other YouTubers, some other media outlets, and I wanted to kind of come out here and just lay my opinion out there. All right. So we can see here in the post-millennial must watch, comedian cracks epic George Floyd joke, triggered audience members leave. I like Kyle Rittenhouse too. And it says in quotes, I wouldn't have kneeled on George Floyd's neck. I would have shot that. And I'm not allowed to say that word. Shocker. So here's the thing. All right. So the comedian that said it was David Lucas. Okay. David is from my hometown. I don't know him directly. We are at best distant acquaintances. We're friends on Facebook. We've had a few back and forths. I've done some film work with a cousin of his in Middle Georgia, but we really don't know each other. To be fair, let me just throw that out there. If we passed each other in the street, obviously I would recognize him. He's a very, very successful, very well known and respected comedian. And I'm a nobody. So, there wouldn't really be anything there. But I say all that to say this. I'm going to give my opinion on it, not as somebody who's close to him, because I'm not, but as an objective observer, but also as a fan, because I actually started following his YouTube channel and following him before I knew that the guy that was standing next to me filming some of the short films that we've been working on was his cousin. Had no idea. Didn't even know he was from Macon, Georgia. By the way, Macon, Georgia, home of the Allman Brothers, Otis Redding, Little Richard, Jason Aldean, and of course, Dave Lucas, and myself. Just putting that out there. But anyways, I saw the video in question, which he posted to his YouTube channel. He posted it, so he clearly didn't think it was a huge deal. And to know David is to love David as a comedian. He goes after those hecklers. He can roast with the best of them. He goes on that Kill Tony show. He was just recently, I almost said abducted. He was recently inducted into the Hall of Fame for the Kill Tony stuff. And if you haven't seen any of those are great. Joe Rogan's there. Shane Gillis is there. So many other, respected and well-known comedians are there. And David is a regular, and David's just fantastic, but he roasts with the best of them. So that's one of the things comedians are really, really good at usually, is roasting, specifically hecklers, right? So I want to go see one of his shows, but I'm afraid I'll lean and make a noise or burp or fart or yawn or something, and he'll find me in the audience and, roast me. And there's plenty to work with. There's plenty to work with. I will be crawling out in tears if I get roasted by somebody. I just can't handle it. But I did see the video and I thought it was funny. I didn't think there was anything super edgy about it. In fact, I don't want to play it for two reasons. One, a lot of cussing in it, and I don't personally have a problem watching stuff that has a lot of cussing in it, but I try not to put that kind of stuff on my channel. If you want to see it, the direct link will be in the description below. You can go check it out. And if you're not easily offended, I do suggest going and checking it out and seeing what the big deal is. Because again, I didn't find it that offensive or that bad at all. But go check it out there. Plus, that gives him another view. And I mean, he's awesome. Right now, he can use all the support because they are coming after him. They are trying to cancel him. And, the cancel mob is always hard at work trying to go after somebody. So here's a black comedian making fun or using a George Floyd reference when he's roasting a heckler. Let's see. So yeah, direct link down there. All right, at the end of the day, it's just a joke, right? He was going after another black guy who was in the audience that was heckling him. So he was causing a disturbance and interruption, and they had a little bit of a back and forth in the video. You can hear one cracking jokes at the other and the other one going back, and they did that for a little bit. And then David Lucas, being the big time roaster that he is, he said, these folks being disrespectful, making the white folks understand more why George Floyd got his neck kneeled on. So he used that as a reference, saying that these black folks were getting out of line, and now these white folks understand even more now. Hey, they're like this. I understand why he got his neck kneeled on. And it was a joke. It was a reference. And I know you can't joke about the Holy One, George Floyd, despite all the negative that you have for George Floyd, because it was one thing that you can point to. It absolves him of everything. Kind of like the wearing a uniform, being a military guy absolves you of any criticisms or anything like that. So that's just how it is. But that joke, that reference opened the floodgates, right? Then he mentioned, just to kind of top it off a little bit, he mentioned liking Kyle Rittenhouse too, which only pisses people off that are ignorant to who Kyle is and what he did. I covered this just recently. If you don't remember, here's a clip of what the truth was about Kyle Rittenhouse and his involvement in anything. Some people believe that Kyle Rittenhouse crossed state lines with an illegal firearm and shot and or killed black people during the riot in Kenosha, Wisconsin over Jacob Blake shootings. This is false. Okay. The firearm was legal. It's not illegal to transport a firearm across the state line. Did happen anyway, but right. He shot and killed a recently released pedophile that was chasing him, threatening him, and he thought he was in danger for his life. This guy went and tried to attack Kyle, calling him the N-word and everything, which is weird. Two white guys, one was calling the other one the N-word, but whatever. But going after Kyle repeatedly, and Kyle reached on up and handled business. It was self-defense, and he shot and killed him in self-defense. So he goes to go get the cops, right? And then the next thing that happens, some stupid skateboarder dude thought he was going to be a hero, came up and tried to stop him, and he got a chunk of his arm blown off for doing something he shouldn't have done. Trying to whack Kyle in the head with the skateboard, which could have, rendered him unconscious, and they could have taken the gun from him. They could have killed him or something. So again, it's another act of self-defense, but you don't hear that. And both of them were white. He didn't shoot anybody that was black. He didn't go there to kill anybody. But that's the way it's presented a lot of times, right? And you may not agree with his way of handling things, but the facts are the facts. And they are constantly being misrepresented or straight up lied about. Well, that is one good looking dude right there. And he knows his stuff. Look, a lot of people have the misconception of why Kyle was in Kenosha, what he was doing there, if he was shooting black people, not shooting black people. We just covered it. He wasn't, but a lot of people think he was. So when David says something like, oh, and I like Kyle Rittenhouse too, for the uninitiated, that's just cherry on the top, right? But David is very much in tone with politics and what's going on. He knows that Kyle's not there for any of that stuff. He knows what he's doing. He's just pushing this dude's buttons because this dude's pushed his buttons along with the other several groups of people that got up and left, and he's just roasting them back. Look, at the end of the day, there are people that look at George Floyd like a saint, despite all the many, 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 many flaws and criminal offenses. He's a saint. You can't pick on him. You can't say anything negative. These same people want to take down statues of our founding fathers who did so much great in the world, who created this great nation that we live in, but they were a product of their time. They had slaves, or they did something else that was negative that they didn't like. So because of the few flaws, they want to completely remove them from history, take down their statues or whatever, right? They don't have a problem with the billions in damages, the several lives lost, dozens of lives lost during the Summer of Love protests and riots in the name of, singular black men being killed by police. Right? They had no problem in that, but they'll turn around and say January 6th was like the worst thing ever, even though there was significantly less damage. There was only one life lost. Again, that was due to Capitol Police, but they're going to go around saying that's the worst thing that's ever happened. These are the same people, right? These people also likely think Rittenhouse shot and killed black people, even though he didn't, and they have no problem when black people align themselves and vote with the Democrat Party, staying in their lane over there, right? That's what they like. That's what they prefer. That's what they want. Anytime someone gets out of line and votes with the Republicans, is a conservative, aligns himself, and I'm not saying that David does. I don't know if David does or not. I know he's a lot more politically aware and awake than a lot of other people that he interacts with. But anytime I see people that start coming out for the Republicans or Trump or whomever it may be, they'll go after him. They'll call him a coon or an Uncle Tom or some other name, right? Because they don't understand their own history. They don't understand the history of the political parties. If they did, they'd see not as much has changed over these, decades, centuries, whatever, that they would like to think has. It just hasn't. Once you start breaking things down, there's not a lot that's changed. It just looks a little bit different. Look, David Lucas is a hell of a comedian, okay? He's a hell of a roaster, and he didn't do anything wrong. It's not just my opinion. I mean, he didn't do anything wrong. He may have told a joke or a mention or whatever you want to call it that you didn't like or other people didn't like, and that's fine. You don't have to laugh at everything. I saw Bill Burr in concert, and he told, in fact, I think it was Kyle Rittenhouse. He was factually incorrect with what he said. The audience didn't boo. They also didn't laugh or cheer for him, but it got a little quiet. And he figured it out, picked it up, and moved on. And that's what comedians are going to do. They're going to push and push and push and push until they finally break the audience, or they're going to realize, I'm not getting anywhere here. I'm going to move on and get them to laugh at something else. So Bill did that. I think David is, awesome enough that he can figure all that out too. But at the same time, the audience was enjoying it because he was going after someone who was heckling him. And look, this ought to teach you one thing. Shut the hell up when you go to a comedy show. If you pay the money, sit down, watch the comedy show, let the comedian do their work. Let them tell the jokes. If it's not funny, don't laugh. Okay, if you're offended, maybe leave quietly, or, don't laugh at that joke, but there's probably another joke that you will laugh at in a minute. Just stay calm. Everything's going to be okay. But you don't have to make a big fuss about it and get up and walk away. Not everybody understands that, and this is what happens. So, David, if you see this, love you, dude. Think you're a hell of a comedian. Can't wait for you to come back to the hometown, do a show, or hook up and let's do some filming or whatever. But you didn't do anything wrong. I hope the cancel mob, in a way, does come after you, because I think that's just going to skyrocket your stock ultimately. But I hope they don't get you and burn you out or anything like that. And if you have not, you can click on that link below to go watch that video, or just go support his YouTube channel. Watch his videos. He's hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. Go check him out. I highly recommend him.
Hey guys, thanks for checking out this clip from the Morning Mayhem. Remember, this is just a portion of the full show that comes out every Friday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. If you hadn't already, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the full shows or these tasty little nuggets.